And let me offer lesson number one about America. All great change in America begins at the dinner table. So tomorrow night in the kitchen, I hope the talking begins. And children, if your parents haven't been teaching you what it means to be an American, let them know and nail them on it. That would be a very American thing to do.
Greetings. My name is Peter Scontras. I am Dean's dad. I'm here this afternoon to introduce our son, the youngest of 7 children, who is campaigning as a Maine candidate for the United States Congress. Dean is running for office because he cares for our country, the people of this great pine tree state, and the preservation of their constitutional rights as established by our founding fathers. Dean possesses the qualities of honesty, determination, and knowledge. Fortified by a strong will, he has always overcome adversity. An insight to Dean's personality is best stated by the following. Someone said that it couldn't be done, but Dean, with a chuckle, replied that maybe it couldn't, but he'd be the one who wouldn't say so till he tried. And now I would like to welcome my son, Dean Scontras, to the podium. Go for it, Dean.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Senator Snow, Senator Collins, Chairman Webster, Convention Chair Robinson, thank you. I'd briefly like to thank and introduce you to my family who's present. My father, who should be running for office, Peter Scontras. My mother, Sophie. My wife is here somewhere, my beautiful love of my life, Donna Scontras, with our lovely 2 children, Jack and Zoe. I grew up in a small white house atop Love Lane in Cary. Our dinner table was actually an old-fashioned redwood picnic table that we hauled into our kitchen from the backyard. There were 9 of us, and finances were tight, so we improvised. But it was there at that table where I learned many valuable life lessons. I learned how my grandparents came here legally from Greece. And how they made a better life for themselves by embracing freedom and embracing opportunity. I learned how my father served in Korea, and my uncles in World War II. But there's one morning I remember in particular that forever changed my life. It was the morning of July 4th, 1976. I was 6 years old, and there was much for my parents to worry about that year. The economy was faltering, inflation and interest rates were rising, Jimmy Carter was surging, communism was advancing across the globe. And I'm sure my parents were concerned about the future of the country and the impact it would have upon their children. And my oldest brother had long since left for the United States Naval Academy, and the remaining 6 of us were huddled around that picnic table. And I assume, like most other summer mornings, we were probably in our bathing suits, eating breakfast and getting ready to go to the beach. At the time, after all, the 4th of July just meant fireworks and barbecues. It was then, unexpectedly, my father took me by the hand and whisked me into the warm summer morning. He put me in the family station wagon. We drove downtown Kittery. We stood amongst the throngs of other families, just the two of us, alongside the road, waiting. And before I could see anything, I could hear the booming of the bass drum. I saw the marching band as it approached. I remember what seemed to be a sea of red, white, and blue flags with the number 76 encircled by a crown of stars. I remember the Marines in their dress blues. I remember how they maintained perfect posture while parading the colors. They never broke their stride. America was celebrating 200 years of independence and liberty, and at the age of 6, I could see and feel what that meant. I would have the same feeling many times throughout my life. I experienced it at age 10 when I went to Bunker Hill. I felt it when I watched the Berlin Wall fall on a small television from my dorm room at the University of Maine. I felt it again when I stood in the blood-stained battlefields of Manassas, Virginia, where the battles of Bull Run were fought, and when I traveled to Hawaii and peered into the crystal waters and watched the drops of oil slowly rise from the sunken hull of the USS Arizona. I saw the haunting images of the Korean War Memorial, where the inscription rightly reads, "Freedom is not free." Now I realize, whether it was the men of the 20th Maine or those who were on the deck of the Arizona, it has always been ordinary Americans who are called to do the heroic. Thomas Paine was a corset maker. Sam Adams, an unsuccessful businessman. Lincoln, a self-educated prairie lawyer. Reagan, an actor. The men who raised the flag on Iwo Jima. The firefighters who raised the flag upon Ground Zero. So it wasn't without a bit of irony just a few weeks ago, my 5-year-old daughter would point to a picture of Reagan's beaming face and ask, "Daddy, who's that man?" Freedom's tradition is now placed upon me to pass to my children. It's placed upon us, parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunts, to hand off to the next generation. We must tell them the stories. We must take them to the parades, to our museums and our memorials, so they may feel what we know to be true, that this country is freedom's last best hope. Thank you. We must hand it to them as we found it, in full working order, with its beaming light still a beacon the world over. Though we still live in a dangerous world today, the challenges to freedom are fundamentally different than those we faced in the past. On television and movies, we see a pop culture that does not esteem our country's celebrated history, nor its patriotism. A world of academia that makes excuses for our proud history. A corrupt culture in Washington, D.C. that prioritizes favor over honor and virtue. We saw this last year during the healthcare debate with the Louisiana Purchase and the Cornhusker kickback. So it is you and I, once again, the ordinary, mothers and fathers and business owners, freedom lovers, who will stand firmly in their way. We stand with the generations of Americans who have protected freedom before. The Constitution is our cornerstone. Freedom spirit is now the working mother who makes her way hundreds of miles to express her discontent about government spending.